Have you ever felt like no matter how much you plan, hustle, or push, life just keeps slipping out of your hands? You organize your day down to the minute. You craft the perfect image, the perfect resume, the perfect relationship. You chase certainty, thinking that control will bring peace. But instead, you feel exhausted, tense, afraid that one misstep will make it all fall apart. Let me tell you about someone. He's 29. Graduated top of his class. He's in a fast-track career, hits the gym at 6 a.m., eats clean, reads every self-help book you can name. On paper, he's winning. But inside, he's terrified. Terrified of falling behind. Terrified of being seen as weak. Terrified of losing what he's built, because deep down, he knows it's all built on sand. And so, he grips tighter. He micromanages his life. He suppresses any emotion that might shake his image. He holds on to toxic expectations, failed relationships, and a vision of success that no longer fits. And every night, he lies awake, wondering why he's so tired. Sound familiar? Welcome to True Stoic Mindset. This isn't just his story. It's the silent crisis of millions. The belief that control equals power. That letting go equals failure. But what if that belief is the very thing trapping you? What if the reason you feel stuck, anxious, or lost is because you're holding on to things you were never meant to carry? This video is going to challenge your definition of strength. It will show you why Stoic evolution begins not by adding more, but by letting go. And how releasing what no longer serves you, thoughts, people, expectations, is the path to real freedom. Stay with me. Because once you understand the hidden link between letting go and personal growth, you won't just change how you think. You'll change how you live. The great lie: control equals strength. From the moment we're old enough to understand the world, we're fed a dangerous story. If you want to be strong, you have to be in control. Control your grades. Control your emotions. Control your appearance, your career, your future, your relationships, your reputation. We glorify those who seem to have it all figured out. The executive who never wavers. The influencer with perfect routines. The couple that looks unbreakable on social media. But underneath that image is something they don't show you. Fear. Because when you build your identity around control, you start living in fear of losing it. Let's break this down. Imagine a man who's worked for 10 years to climb the corporate ladder. He has the title, the salary, the office. But every day, he micromanages his team, checks his inbox compulsively, and can't sleep unless every task is closed. Why? Because deep down, he doesn't trust things to go right unless he's gripping every wheel at once. He's not operating from strength. He's operating from fear. And that fear becomes his prison. Here's the paradox no one tells you. The tighter you grip, the more fragile you become. Because life is not designed to be controlled. It moves. It changes. People leave. Plans collapse. Markets crash. And when your peace depends on external stability, you will always live on the edge of breakdown. The Stoics understood this better than anyone. They saw that chasing control in a chaotic world is like building a sandcastle in a rising tide. You might buy yourself moments of stillness. But eventually, life comes. And when it does, it doesn't ask for permission. So what do most people do? They cling harder. They chase closure in dead relationships. They obsess over the past, trying to rewrite what cannot be undone. They fear uncertainty, so they create fake certainties, routines, beliefs, identities, that feel safe, but are built on illusions. You can see it in their eyes. The exhaustion of holding too tightly for too long. Here's the tragedy. What they call strength is actually resistance. And resistance, unchecked, becomes suffering. Because it fights against what is. Let that sink in. How many of your struggles right now come not from the situation itself, but from your refusal to accept that the situation is what it is? Your anxiety doesn't come from not knowing the outcome. It comes from needing it to go a certain way. Your pain doesn't come from being alone. It comes from believing you shouldn't be. This is the crisis. This is the breaking point. And maybe you're already there. So the question becomes, if gripping harder doesn't bring peace, what will? When clinging destroys you, you tell yourself it's not time yet. You say, I just need a little more clarity, a little more time, a little more effort. You convince yourself that letting go now would mean failure, weakness, or worse, regret. But deep down, you feel the weight. You're tired. Tired of pretending it's fine. Tired of managing chaos. Tired of carrying something that no longer fits your life, but somehow still defines you. We rarely admit it out loud. But here it is. We hold on, not because we're strong, but because we're scared. Scared of losing control. Scared of losing identity. Scared of what we might find in the silence that follows. Think about it. We say we can't let go of the relationship, because there's still hope. But what we're really saying is, I don't know who I am without them. We say we can't quit the job, because we've invested so much. But deep down we fear. If I walk away, what was the point of all those years? This fear creates a paradox. The thing we cling to is the thing that's holding us back. And yet we defend it. Justify it. Live around it. You become so used to the weight that you don't even notice how heavy it is anymore. You call it loyalty. You call it grit. You call it not giving up. But let's be brutally honest. Sometimes, not letting go is what's killing you. It eats your energy. It clouds your thinking. It steals your presence. Because part of you is always somewhere else, trying to fix, control, hold together what is already breaking. There's a saying in Stoicism. You suffer more in imagination than in reality. Seneca. And nowhere is this more true than in the mind of someone who refuses to let go. You imagine worst-case scenarios. You replay conversations. You pre-live pain that hasn't happened, and might never happen. You build a mental prison where the bars are made of what-ifs and if-onlys. Let's slow down here. Ask yourself. Right now, this very moment, what are you clinging to? What are you mentally grasping, white-knuckled, hoping it stays the same, hoping it doesn't slip away? Now ask. Is it really serving you? Or is it just familiar? We humans confuse comfort with safety. But not everything familiar is safe. Some things are just old pain, dressed in nostalgia. It might be a version of yourself that doesn't fit anymore. The overachiever who can't rest. The caretaker who can't say no. The tough one who never asks for help. You wore these roles to survive. But now they suffocate you. So why keep holding on? Because letting go feels like erasing the past. Like saying, none of it mattered. But that's not true. Letting go is not erasure. It's evolution. It's saying, this served me once, but I no longer need it to survive. I'm ready for something new. But there's a cost. And here's where most people stop. To let go, you must accept uncertainty. You must step into the void, into the silence where identity used to be, and stand there without answers. That's why letting go is terrifying. Not because we don't want freedom, but because we're addicted to definition. We'd rather stay stuck in a painful story than risk not having a story at all. But here's what the Stoics knew. Clarity comes after the letting go, not before. You don't wait until you're 100% certain to release the grip. You release it, and only then do you see what your hands were made to hold. Let's go even deeper. Imagine your clenched fists. Tight with fear, anger, memory, control. Now imagine slowly opening them. It hurts. There's resistance. But you breathe through it. In that space, where tension once lived, there's stillness. That stillness is not emptiness. It's the beginning of freedom. But you can't reach it by force. You reach it by surrender. Not surrender to defeat, but surrender to reality, as it is, not as you wish it to be. Marcus Aurelius wrote, "You have power over your mind, not outside events. Realize this, and you will find strength. Right now, You might be in the exact place where everything in you wants to hold on, to fight, to fix, to not let go. But maybe, just maybe, this is the moment your evolution begins. Not by doing more, not by pushing harder, but by whispering to yourself, I don't have to hold this anymore. And asking the question that changes everything. What if letting go isn't giving up, but growing up? The shift, claiming what's truly yours. There's a moment, often subtle, often quiet, when something inside you breaks. Not in a destructive way, but in a revealing one. It's that moment when you realize, I can't keep living like this. Constantly reacting, chasing outcomes, grasping for control over things that refuse to be controlled. It's the moment when you finally ask, what, if anything, is actually mine? That's when the words of Epictetus become more than philosophy. They become survival. Some things are up to us, and some are not. 16 words. And yet, they hold the power to change the way you move through life. Let's pause and truly absorb this. In any given moment, there are two domains. What's within your control? What's not within your control? Your thoughts, your judgments, your choices, your actions, your attitude. Outside your control. What others say or do. The past, the future, circumstances, outcomes, almost everything else. This is not just a theory. It's reality. And the tragedy is, most people live as if the list were reversed. They obsess over whether someone likes them. They replay conversations from years ago. They fixate on how others should behave. They try to predict, prevent, and perfect a world they cannot control. Meanwhile, their own mind, their judgments, their emotions, their focus, remains unguarded. Scattered. Vulnerable. Exhausted. This is the first fracture in the human spirit. The illusion of total control. It's subtle, but destructive. Because it leads you to fight battles you were never meant to win. Let me give you a real example. A woman is ghosted by someone she loves. No explanation. No closure. She replays the last message. The tone of voice. The silence. Days turn into weeks. Her energy drains. Her sleep suffers. Not because of what happened, but because she keeps trying to control what already happened. Or another man, laid off from his job. He did everything right, met every deadline, went above and beyond. Now he spirals. Was it me? Should I have seen this coming? What do they think of me now? Notice the pattern? In both cases, the pain isn't just from the event. It's from the resistance to the event. From trying to rewrite something that's already outside their hands. Now imagine if they responded like Epictetus would. The woman asks herself, can I control what he does? No. But I can choose how I interpret this. And so she grieves, accepts, and chooses dignity over desperation. The man reflects. Can I control the layoff? No. But I can decide what I do next. And so he updates his resume, reconnects with people, and reframes the loss as a redirection. This is not denial. It's discipline. Because the Stoic doesn't suppress emotion. The Stoic honors emotion, then moves through it with clarity. Clarity that comes from knowing. This is mine. That is not. Here's where it gets even deeper. You don't just apply this distinction to moments of crisis. You apply it every day, every hour, in the smallest decisions. Stuck in traffic? You can't move the cars. But you can choose not to rage. Criticized unfairly? You can't stop the words. But you can choose how much power they hold. Your child throws a tantrum, your partner forgets something important, your plan falls apart? You feel it. You respond. But you don't let it shake the core of who you are. Because your peace is not on the line anymore. That is Stoic evolution. Not immunity to pain, but resilience through precision. The precision of knowing where your energy belongs. Think of your energy as currency. Every day, you wake up with a limited amount. Where will you spend it? On trying to change someone's opinion of you? On predicting the next crisis? On regretting yesterday? Or will you spend it on showing up with integrity, practicing presence, responding, not reacting, speaking honestly, letting go of what isn't yours? The choice is always yours. And here's the final piece most people miss. Control isn't power. Clarity is. Because once you see what's yours and what's not, you no longer panic when the world moves against you. You no longer spiral when someone disapproves. You no longer beg reality to behave. You simply act, cleanly, calmly, consciously. Not because you control everything, but because you've mastered your domain. And that is freedom. Freedom that no one can give you, and no one can take away. So the next time you feel overwhelmed, ask the Stoics question. Is this mine to carry? And if the answer is no, put it down. Flowing with nature, Marcus Aurelius and radical acceptance. He was the emperor of Rome, ruler of the most powerful empire on earth. He could command armies, reshape cities, silence dissent. And yet, in his private writings, Marcus Aurelius never boasted about power. He wrote about surrender, about letting go, about accepting the flow of life instead of resisting it. Again and again, he returned to one idea. Live in accordance with nature. But what does that mean? And how can it change how you live? To Marcus, nature wasn't just trees, rivers, or seasons. It was the natural order of the universe, how things unfold, evolve, end, and begin again. Nature brings storms. It also brings calm. It creates. It destroys. It offers no apologies, only cycles. Marcus observed this deeply. He watched people die unexpectedly. He lost children, friends, and trust. He endured plagues, political betrayal, and personal suffering. And in all of it, he never asked, "Why me?" He asked, "What does this moment ask of me?" That's Stoic acceptance. Not resignation. Not helplessness. But clarity, the kind that comes when you stop fighting what already is. Imagine you're standing in a river. The current is strong, unpredictable. You try to push against it. You resist, plant your feet, rage at the force. And you get exhausted, even injured. Now imagine letting go. Not giving up, but flowing with it. Adjusting your balance. Reading the water. Trusting the direction. You're still in motion. You're still alive. But you've stopped the fight. This is the shift Marcus made. And it's one you can make too. Here's what it looks like in daily life. You plan carefully. And the plan falls apart. Instead of spiraling, you adapt. Someone breaks your trust. Instead of clinging to bitterness, you accept their nature and adjust your boundaries. You wake up anxious about the future. Instead of controlling every variable, you focus on what today asks of you. Marcus wrote, "Receive without pride. Let go without attachment." Why? Because everything you cling to, status, wealth, reputation, even people, is temporary. You don't own them. You borrow them. And when the time comes to return them, will you collapse? Or will you let go with dignity? This is where real strength lives. Not in how tightly you hold, but in how gracefully you release. Think about your own life. What are you resisting right now? What truth are you refusing to accept because it hurts? What change are you delaying out of fear? Marcus didn't avoid these questions. He sat with them. He wrote them down. He trained his mind to welcome discomfort, not because he enjoyed it, but because it revealed reality. Reality doesn't always feel good. But it's the only place peace exists. Because when you live aligned with nature, when you accept the rise and fall, the coming and going, you stop panicking every time something ends. A Stoic doesn't mourn the passing of time. He honors it. He knows that seasons are not enemies. They are teachers. And every ending is the seed of something new. Here's the paradox. The more you let go of how things should be, the more you can fully engage with how they are. Acceptance doesn't mean passivity. It means choosing clarity over illusion. You still act. You still try. You still care. But you stop demanding life bend to your will. You stop thinking, I will be at peace if things go my way. And you start living, I will be at peace regardless of how things go. That's the Stoic mind. Calm, not because the world is calm, but because the mind is trained to stay still amid movement. In his final years, Marcus knew death was coming. And instead of fearing it, he prepared. He didn't cling to his throne. He didn't ask for special treatment. He wrote with clarity. You could leave life right now. Let that determine what you do, say, and think. And in that single thought, you find his essence. Let go. Accept what comes. And while you are here, act with courage, love with depth, and live without illusion. This is not weakness. This is the power of living in harmony with reality. Because when you stop resisting nature, you don't disappear. You become part of something greater. And in that surrender, you are finally free. Daily practice, the art of letting go. Understanding Stoicism is one thing. Living it, day by day, moment by moment, is another. It's easy to nod when you hear, let go of what you can't control. But how do you do that, when the thing you're holding on to feels personal, important, even necessary? Letting go is not a single act. It's a discipline, a daily spiritual practice of returning to what matters, and releasing what does not. Here are 3 Stoic exercises you can use. Not once, but every day. 1. The circle of control. Every morning before your phone, before your mind races into the chaos of the day, take 5 minutes. Draw 2 circles on paper. The inner circle, what's in my control today? The outer circle, what's not? In the inner circle, write things like my focus, my attitude, my effort, my words, how I respond to discomfort. In the outer circle, the opinions of others, unexpected delays, the economy, how someone texts you back, or doesn't. Then sit with it. Breathe. Look at the outer circle and whisper, not mine to carry. Look at the inner circle and say, this is where I place my energy. This practice rewires your nervous system. It trains your mind, gently but firmly, to stop bleeding energy into the uncontrollable. You become less reactive, less anxious, more present. 2. The expectation cleanse. Expectation is the silent assassin of peace. It slips in unnoticed, cloaked in hope, ambition, standards. But over time, it distorts reality. We don't suffer because life is chaotic. We suffer because we expect it to behave. Every morning, say to yourself, today, I expect nothing. And I accept everything. It sounds extreme. But it's not surrender, it's strength. When you expect nothing, you're not disappointed by traffic, rude people, delays, rejection. You're not immune, you're unshaken. It's not about apathy. You still care. You still show up. But you stop demanding outcomes. You stop clinging to your idea of how it should go. You become adaptable, resilient, free. 3. The release ritual. This one is sacred. Every evening, ask yourself, what am I still holding on to that no longer serves me? It could be a comment someone made, a past failure, a future worry, a tiny resentment, a feeling of inadequacy. Write it down. Not with logic, with honesty. Let the page hold your fear, your shame, your anger. Then, rip the page. Burn it. Flush it. Or simply close the notebook and whisper, I release this. It's not who I am. Over time, this becomes a spiritual hygiene. Like brushing your teeth, but for your soul. You carry less. You sleep deeper. You meet each day with lighter hands. These practices are simple. But they are not easy. Because every time you try to let go, a part of your mind will resist. It will say, but this matters. If I don't hold on, no one will. This defines me. But that voice is not your truth. It's your fear. And fear has a habit of dressing up as wisdom. Letting go doesn't mean you don't care. It means you care correctly. You care without clinging. You move without controlling. You live without needing life to apologize. Seneca wrote, "He who is brave is free." And there is bravery in releasing what no longer serves you. It's easy to hold on. It's familiar. It gives you a sense of identity, even if it's built on pain. But freedom doesn't come from familiar pain. It comes from unfamiliar peace. And peace begins with one simple act. To say, "This is not mine anymore." Not because you're weak, but because you're finally strong enough to stop fighting. Freedom Indiana the Flames, the Seneca Paradox. He had everything. Lucius Annaeus Seneca, philosopher, playwright, advisor to the emperor. He was wealthy beyond imagination, connected to the most powerful circles in Rome. He owned villas, estates, a vast library. His words shaped an empire. And yet, he lived like a man ready to lose it all. Every day, he practiced detachment, not from indifference, but from wisdom. He wore simple clothes. He fasted regularly. He rehearsed loss. Why? Because he understood the most radical truth of Stoicism. You only own what you can walk away from without losing yourself. Seneca once wrote, "It is not the man who has too little, but the man who craves more, who is poor." He wasn't condemning wealth. He had it. He was challenging attachment. Let's go back to the end of his life. Nero, the unstable emperor whom Seneca once tutored, accuses him of conspiracy. Without trial, he sends a message. "You must take your own life." Seneca receives the news calmly. He doesn't beg. He doesn't protest. He gathers his family. He gives them comfort, not panic. He opens his veins, speaks his final reflections, and fades, in peace. Why? Because Seneca had already died to his attachments long before his body died. He had rehearsed this moment. And when it came, he didn't flinch. Now pause. Ask yourself, could you do that? Not in the literal sense. But could you face the loss of what you think defines you, and stay rooted? The loss of status? The end of a relationship? The failure of a dream? Most people can't. Because they've built their identity around what they hold, instead of who they are when they let go. But what if you reverse that? What if you train for loss, not to invite suffering, but to liberate yourself from fear? That's what Seneca did. And you can start small. Imagine this. You're clinging to a dream that no longer excites you, but you're scared to let it go because it's who you've always been. You're in a relationship that drains you, but you stay because you fear being alone. You're working a job that's slowly killing your spirit, but it pays well and people respect the title. And then one day, something inside you whispers, "It's time." But your hands are still clenched. Now imagine slowly opening them, letting the dream go, letting the image die, letting silence arrive. What's left? At first, terror. Then emptiness. But if you sit with it long enough, something new emerges. Stillness. Clarity. Freedom. You realize you didn't lose yourself. You found yourself, beneath everything you thought you needed. This is the paradox. The more you let go, the more whole you become. Because your worth was never in what you held. It was in your ability to hold, lightly. Seneca knew this. He lived it. He died by it. And through his life, he teaches us. Peace is not found in what you have. It's found in what you're no longer afraid to lose. Let that settle in your heart. Because right now, you might be holding on to something, or someone, that no longer fits who you're becoming. And it's painful to consider letting it go. But maybe that pain is not a warning. Maybe it's an invitation. An invitation to become the version of you that's not defined by fear, attachment, or illusion, but by presence, courage, and depth. So here's your moment. Close your eyes. Picture what you're holding. Feel the weight of it. Now breathe in, and open your hands. Let it fall. Let it burn. Let it go. Not because it doesn't matter, but because you matter more. The power of empty hands. You came here wondering about letting go. Maybe you expected tips, or steps, or strategies. But what you found was something deeper. A confrontation with a truth you've always known, buried beneath the noise. You've been gripping too tightly. And it's time to stop. Not because the world will change, but because you will. Letting go is not weakness. It is the strongest thing you'll ever do. It says, I no longer need to control the uncontrollable. I no longer measure my worth by what I hold. I choose peace over illusion. That's what the Stoics teach. That you are most powerful when you hold nothing that can be taken from you. Not status. Not certainty. Not even identity. Because when your hands are empty, your heart is full. You become available to truth. To love that's not possessive. To presence that's not anxious. To action that's not reactive. You stop clinging and start living. Marcus Aurelius said, You have power over your mind, not outside events. Realize this, and you will find strength. So here you are. At the end of this journey. Wiser. Lighter. Ready to live from the inside out. Because in the end, letting go isn't the death of your story. It's the beginning of your becoming. Let go. And watch what rises in its place. Only by letting go. You are truly free. Follow to grow stronger every single day. If this message spoke to you, subscribe to True Stoic Mindset, tap the bell icon, and share this with someone you care about, someone who's carrying too much. And in the comments below, tell us, what's one thing you know it's time to let go of? Not someday. Today.